This channel is for educational purposes only. Make sure you do your own due diligence before making any investments. And there is inherent risk in trading, so it's speculative. Just make sure you keep that in mind. Hey everybody, welcome back to Invest Like a Pro. We're going to talk about the S&P and the QQQ today, and possibly one more market, depending on whether I have time. So the market continues to climb higher. We've really a lot of the same things that we've been talking about. There's not been a significant change taking place. However, there are a few things underlying the price action that I think are worth noting and that we have to continue to keep an eye on. So let's go ahead and get into the charts. And so I like to start with the 4 time frames. I've got the monthly in the bottom left, weekly in the bottom right, daily in the upper right, and then I've got an hourly in the upper left. I am going to spend a few minutes on the hourly today. So what I'd like to do is just start with the monthly. And I want to point out that the momentum on this is okay, but it's not great. I mean, we've already made a pretty significant move in price, and now the ADX is finally getting over 25. That's not ideal. Normally, you want the ADX to get going relatively early in the trend after the breakout and get this starting to climb above 25. It's taken, a full-length move to get the ADX to cross 25. So that's not ideal. The other thing that I would tell you is looking at this, that price distance from its 18-month line, we're just going to have to watch and see if we ever get a close below the 4 MA that I have drawn in here. We had one close below right here, and then the next month went right back above. So, first thing is, are we going to take out a prior month's low? And second thing is, we're going to close below the 4. I mean, we need to look at these type of things on the monthly chart just to know what increases our likelihood that we're going to fill in this area. That's really the risk right now is here. It's not really the risk of a crash in the market, I don't think. Personally, I would be more inclined to think that we have pullback risk on the monthly chart. So it's something we have to watch. Let's go to the weekly. In fact, I'll just leave this up and switch this over to the weekly. And what's nice about this is we have a pretty orderly trend. It's not like we're dealing with anything crazy to the upside. Both lines are rising at about the same rate. What I've been talking about for quite some time now, what's been bothering me is how this ADX just keeps dropping. And now we've made a lower peak below 25, even though price has made new highs. And also now we've got MACD unable to get above its signal line. So just a few things here that are what I would consider to be troubling, but we always stick with price until price tells us otherwise. So we've got this underlying condition that is not as good. I mean, we can see the MACD. Now, it's trying to get above its signal line, and if that's the case, that could be a short-term positive, but we're still lacking a lot of momentum here. So we had a pretty strong condition in place from September of last year through June of this year. And now we've got an uptrend, but we don't have as strong a condition in place underneath. So it's just what you have to recognize. You have to play things, I think, a little bit tighter to the vest, maybe play smaller positions. And if you're looking at longer term positions, you need to be, I think, a lot more selective about how you go about adding or buying stocks. Let's go to the daily chart. This is not any better, really. I mean, we don't have any confirmation on a MACD basis. ADX is way down at 7. Just not a lot happening here. However, price isn't breaking down. It's more sideways. We've lost some volatility here recently. And it's not like if we kept on staying more volatile, then I think that would increase the risk. But we just haven't had that. Now, if you look at what's taken place, we had this nice run to the upside, and we've just kind of walked sideways. I usually view that as being pretty appealing to me. And let's go ahead and look at the hourly to take this to another step. So we had a pretty nice move.
which got the ADX up at the 45 area, something like that, based on the buyers. And then we've gone sideways while the ADX has pulled back and the MACD got back down to the 0 line and it's cupping around. I mean, this is a pretty constructive looking pattern. Looking at this, I could almost argue, I could see this trying to make a little trading play to the upside. I think you just have to take it in the context of what's going on completely with all the trends. I mean, if we look at these trends, you've got uptrend, 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 uptrend. We got 4 uptrends, but momentum is questionable here. Maybe not so bad, more neutralish right now. That's more negative. This is more negative. This is probably more neutral. So it's not like we have this powerful trend in place across multiple time frames. But, in the near term, I could see this trying to make a move to the upside, maybe a little bit of a breakout and have a little bit of follow through. So I would view that more like a trading play at this point. I would use tight stops if I were going to do that. Let's look at the QQQ. Same sort of pattern here. Look at the hourly. Notice how this has this cupping pattern that has developed that I think is pretty constructive. We have the same issues. Now, the monthly is actually strong trend, but it is extended from the 18-month. But then we have, I would say, sort of divergent ADX. Even though price is at a significantly new high on the weekly, you don't really have the confirmation. ADX is still below 25. And then look at this new high again. We're making another new high in price on the daily chart, and ADX is way down and pretty low, down in the mid-teens. So not exactly the type of backdrop that we want to get real aggressive with. However, in the short term, they might want to play this a little bit more to the upside. Let me just go back. One of the things that I think you might want to do if you're looking to do this kind of trading is use the create a trend line here, and then the way I do it is I just create a clone of that and then put it on top and try and connect those highs. So if you notice, I'm touching here, touching here, touching here, and then touched again here. So this is a pretty good target for me to be on the lookout for a trading play for a little bit of a run up to the upside. That actually is a pretty significant distance away. A little bit surprised to see that. Just something to be on the lookout for based on the shorter term time frames. I would definitely be playing this tight, and if I'm going to play it as a short term trading move. And just be cautious about how you'd go about doing something like that based on the backdrop that has taken place here. So let's go ahead and go back to the QQQ. The same thing holds true here. I think this 368 level is pretty key. If we came back down through that, I think that would be kind of disturbing, especially because the ADX has not crossed above 25 yet. But we're sort of dealing with a situation where the market just keeps pushing higher. It doesn't have great momentum in place, but you have to go with price. Stick with price for now. And in the short term, maybe we get a little bit more follow through. So let's look at one other thing. I wanted to look at the TNX because, in fact, let me switch this. I wanted to show this is coming into some pretty good support down around 105, 110 on the yields. So the yields are at a level now where we're coming into the 18-month line, and I think there's some pretty good price support. I would not be surprised if we're going to start to see some kind of a rally in the 10-year Treasury yields here. If that takes place, I still think we're in a trading range. Resistance is probably up around 1.4, 1.5. So it's a pretty decent sized trading range. I think we should be on the lookout for and sort of expect. Now, if that does happen, then we should expect to see some improvement in some of the banks and maybe some of the other areas related to kind of like the value areas. So just something to keep in mind. We'll have to keep an eye on this. Some of the growth stocks could be hit a little bit if we do see this rallying. So anyway, just a quick update from that standpoint. Post any comments or questions, and we'll see you next week.